I also would like to have a very clear understanding between all of the cabinet secretaries, all the and the legislature. Very clear understanding of what we're going to be trying to do, the timetable that we're giving ourselves to do it in, the deadlines that we have to put, so that we don't waste any time. So yes, it was very exciting. It really brought home the fact that we won this election, and I will be president. But immediately it comes out, well, if you're going to be president, you better get to work. So yun ang mga nangyari.
At least po magsisink in na yan later on. Before proceeding po dun sa formal interview namin, gusto lang po namin i-congratulate kayo. Ayan, congratulations po.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, how would you like to be addressed po by our Filipino people? Para mas, yung name calling ba, kumbaga, at para mas madaling matandaan?
I think lilitaw na lang at lilitaw. I don't know.
PBBM? Okay na yun?
That will work. I was SBBM when I was in the Senate. So yeah, I think that will work. Kilala na ako ngayon. Kilala na ako, especially in the pub, because of the campaign of BBM. So maybe that's the logical way to go.
So PBBM na po. Ano na po, tuloy ko nilang
deal with the economy.
Yeah, yan. Ano po yung magiging first order of the day po ninyo since kayo na po ay proclaimed as the 17th President of the Republic of the Philippines?
Well, the first priority is always going to be the economy. And that's why we have been very, very careful in choosing the economic team. It's still down to jobs, to the increasing prices of commodities, some relief for the business community. We have to streamline the operations of government. Still down to jobs, to the increasing prices of commodities, digital and IT and digital communication, para maging mas maganda ang patakbo. And also it will be better for the Philippines for the simple reason that the rest, when we deal with other countries, everybody else is digitized. Tayo lang ang medyo naiwanan. So it will make quicker. Ganun ang negosyo ngayon eh. Ganun ang investment ngayon. Kailangan talaga digitize. So those are the immediate things, because those are the things that I think we can immediately enforce. But, the things we spoke about during the campaign, hindi pang kampanya lang yan. We really need to do something about, we needed to find help for our MSMEs. We really have to create once again the value chain for agriculture. Education needs a lot of, I'm so happy that Vice President Sara has decided to take on that job. It's not a small job. Sa education to increase, and of course the infrastructure development continues. So these are the things that we can immediately go on. That's why I'm using the time between now and the 1st of July to plan, to talk to everybody and say maging maliwanag ang plano para nakakaintindihan tayong lahat. Ito yung dapat natin gagawin. I guess on the 1st of July, we will have a cabinet meeting immediately, just to, everybody knows naman yung mga kinukuha naman namin, magkakilala na yan, they've worked together before in their different areas. So, but the important thing is to be very clear amongst ourselves, in the cabinet, and with the public as well, that this is the directions that we are taking. This is how we plan to do it. We will engage with certain agencies, with the private sector, with citizens, NGOs even, to move the thing forward. So I think I think we've made a good start in the last since May 9, last 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I think we've made a good start. There's still a long way to go, but I think we've made a good start already. The most important thing for me is to get the right people in the right place.
Meron na po ba tayo economic teams na
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. I think it would be appropriate to say that I will be nominating our BSP president, Ben Jokno, for the position of Secretary of Finance. He has already agreed kami, and he has agreed. His place in the BSP will be taken by Philip Medalla, who is going to be the who will take on his unexpired term, which lasts until yung term talaga ng president, BSP presidents hanggang is in this case is until July. So at the very least he will be there. I have asked Fred Pascual to head the DTI, and he has agreed. We talk about the economic team, and maybe normally we don't consider this department part of it, but it is going to be part of it. I am intending to nominate Manny Bunuan for Department of Public Works and Highways. He has spent almost his entire professional life in the DPWH. I know him very well, so I think he will do. I know he will do a good job. So those are the things that we have decided. I know the economic team is critical, and that is what people are looking to. I think we have found the best people for it, who are able to look forward and to anticipate what the conditions will be for the Philippines within the rest of the world in the coming years.
Thank you, Ms. Santos. Mr. MJ.
Sir, congratulations. First of all,
Thank you.
Yung management namin ay nagpapabot po ng pagbati sa inyo pong panalo. And especially my big boss, Reverend Dr. Pastor Apollo C. Gibuloy.
Well, I thank him. But he was a very big part of what we were trying to do. Kasama ka naman lagi. You were always with us.
Sir, balikan ko lang po yung sa economy. May mga panawagan, sir, na i-postpone daw muna yung implementation ng
Yung
RCEP, and also, sir, dagdag ko mamaya yung oil excise tax.
Yung?
Oil excise tax, sir.
Okay, let's do RCEP first. Sa aking pananaw, let's have another look at it, because the RCEP is a very fine thing. Ako talagang a great proponent, believer in trade. Hindi talaga tayo, walang yumaman na bansa na hindi maganda ang kanilang trade. Na mayroon silang manufacturing, marami silang ine-export. They are very involved in trade. All the great economies in the past 200, 300 years, it really came down to trade. So that's something that we want to encourage, and what RCEP seeks to do. Now, the only stumbling block, the only possible stumbling block there is that it's all very well to trade if you are in a competitive position. And I do not know that our agricultural sector is sufficiently robust to take on the competition that the opening of the markets will cause RCEP. So let's have a look at it again and make sure na hindi naman malulugi ang ating agri-sector. Pagka renatify na natin yan, dapat handa na yung sistema natin na makipag-compete. Dahil kung hindi talaga makipag-compete, masasapawan sila. Mawawala yung ating mga local, and panay na lang ang import natin. And we don't want that. We want to beef up the agricultural sector. We want to have sufficient food supply for the Philippines in case of any crisis. We should really learn our lessons from the pandemic, that wag natin pababayaan yan. Dahil pag may dumating na crisis na ganyan, ramdam na ramdam ng tao, kulang ang pagkain for various reasons. So anyway, sa RCEP, tignan natin ulit exactly what will be the effect, pag-aralan natin na mabuti, that if we ratify it now, what will be the effect on our farming community, our farmers especially. They need protection. Hirap na hirap ang mga magsasaka. And how will it impact what our plans are to, as I mentioned earlier, create the value chain for agriculture once again. So that is my view on RCEP. Pag-aralan natin na mabuti. Pagkaya ng ating magsasaka o suportahan natin ng gobyerno at kaya na silang mag-compete, di i-ratify na natin yan. But let's protect our farmers.
Sir, sa oil excise tax, are you...
Yung oil excise tax, I think there are other ways to handle the increase and the disturbances that we are having in terms of the petroleum products that we are importing. We can support those areas na tinamaan kaagad ng pagtaas ng presyo ng langis. Number one there was transport. And this is important because transport is going to be critical in the resurgence of the economy. And the reason I say that is because nakikita na natin, there are what we keep talking about supply chain problems that have arisen post-pandemic sa ibang lugar. I don't consider us post-pandemic yet. I think we are still hopefully at the tail end. But nonetheless, nakikita na natin in other countries na yun ang ginagawa na nagkakaproblema doon sa transport situation. Because COVID changed everything, we tried to go back nung bumubukas ang mga ekonomiya. Sinubukan nating bumalik doon sa dating gawin. Hindi na maaari yun. We have to do it in a different way. And we have to be more creative and more aware of what the future global economy is going to look like. So in terms of oil excise tax, I think we still have to look at that very well. If there is a commensurate, return to somehow deferring the collection of the excise tax, what will be siyempre, the government needs the money. Mahirap ang gobyerno sa pondo ngayon. The government needs the money. Pero kung talagang makikita naman, may ano naman yan eh. Pag sinabi mo, tanggalin natin yung excise tax o bawasan natin yung excise tax, ano yung magiging effect doon? Talaga bang worth it ba na mawala yung pondo o o yung income ng gobyerno, kasi mas magiging maganda naman ang effect sa ekonomiya and makabawi tayo. So we have to study that. It's still a cost-benefit analysis. It's not simple, but that's what we will have to do. But of course, that will be one of the areas that will be under intense study in the first few weeks, because we really have to see our fiscal policy, how we handle it, and we have to be more analytical in the way that we impose new taxes or withdraw old taxes or amend the tax structure to see that there will be, as I said, a commensurate advantage perhaps in another part of the economy. But kailangan meron naman talagang may balance naman. So, kasi pag nawala ka agad dyan, wala naman tayong pangbigay ng tupad, wala na tayong pangbigay ng ayuda, kailangan pa rin ng tao yan. But if the economy is ready, kahit kunin mo yan, may trabaho na, then perhaps we can think about it.
Thank you, MJ. Mr. Martin.
PBBM, sir.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our debt stands at 13 trillion right now. May pinropose po ang Department of Finance na fiscal consolidation plan that
Correct.
details measures for revenue generation para matugunan tong utang na to. It includes deferment of personal income tax reduction, limiting VAT exemptions, and excise tax.
Yes.
Where do you stand on these tax measures?
I think that's an examination we really have to undertake. I mean, just for what I hear from legal practitioners, we have to codify our tax. Kasi yung tax natin, it has evolved over many administrations. And what I will try to apply is that there will be hindi lang yung kuha tayo dito sa sin tax, kuha tayo dito sa oil, kuha tayo dito sa housing, kuha tayo dito sa cooperative. Hindi, kailangan talaga may plano tayo. So gagawin natin yung plano natin, and the fiscal policy is going to follow that. Now, in my discussions with our legislators yesterday, we are trying to create some fiscal space so that to reduce the load on ordinary citizens, and maybe move the load up, the tax load up, and there are also distribution of wealth implications to that, which are very, very important. It's one of the areas that I think we have to work on very, very hard. The distribution of wealth dito sa Pilipinas has not been very equitable. And so that's something that that the fiscal policy will hope to balance, achieve a better balance. So we must approach all of these things. The economy is a living thing, and you cannot just look at one area without trying to anticipate what the real effect will be for the entire economy and so we have to, the point I'm making is that we have to have an economic recovery plan, and the fiscal policy will follow that. What areas will we encourage? What comes out off the top of my mind is MSMEs kagad. Bawasan na natin, or we give them a holiday, tax amnesty, tax holiday. We're studying that now, because that's the only way that I can see. We do microfinancing even in the private sector. We want them to come back because 62% of our employees are in MSMEs. The agriculture also, yung ating ayuda. The fertilizer that we buy, urea, is petroleum-based in terms of pricing, and it's imported. And it has gotten to such a severe situation that there are farmers now who just don't plant. Kasi if urea is at what? 2,000 pesos. sabi niya, hindi naman kami kikita eh. So, huwag na lang. Di ba? We'll do something else. Mangingisda lang kami or we'll do something else. And that doesn't bode well for our plans for developing agriculture. So, whatever fiscal policy is going to be, whatever changes in fiscal policy that we are going to undertake, it will have to come, we have to examine it we have to think it through properly. So, yung mga pabigla-bigla na tinataas, binababa, hindi natin magagawa yun dahil kung gawin natin yan, it will, if there are too many moving parts, you cannot anticipate what will happen. And so, we have to be careful and there are many variables. Move the variables one by one. Huwag mong sasabay-sabay kasi then you don't know what's happening. We just followed, I guess, the scientific method. So, my approach to the fiscal policy first is to codify it, to make it simpler, to make it more understandable, number one. Secondly, is to reduce as much of the tax collections from those who are suffering from the pandemic, the effects of the pandemic. That means MSMEs, agricultural sector, transport, yung mga ganun. So, mabawasan natin. Let's hope we can raise funds in another area and use it there. So, then again, very important to me is the distribution of wealth issue. So, that will also be part of the thinking that will obtain when we talk about fiscal policy. So it's difficult for me at this point. I'm trying to answer your question, but it's difficult for me to answer your question because I cannot talk about specifics because they will all be part of a larger economic plan. Of course, but the general principle that we will apply is to give opportunities to those that have suffered, maybe by lightening the tax liabilities that they are required to pay. But again, we have to see what the effect will be for the rest of the economy, for other sectors of the economy. So, yes, fiscal policy is going to, monetary policy is also, now that you mentioned monetary policy is also, I was just watching the news before I came here, marami na talaga ng tataas ng interest rate around the country. So, this is what we were talking with BSP President Ben Jokno, if we're going to raise interest rates, if our investment rating will change, kung bababa ba yan, or can we do something to keep it? But he seems optimistic, and to an extent, I share his optimism, and I think we can do it. But we have to be very, very, how do you say? We have to be very circumspect about making sudden changes, because as we've seen, all of these sudden changes have had some unintended consequences in other parts of the hindi mo na makakalain, may pumuntok doon kasi dito may ginawa ka rito. Like I said, the economy is a living thing, and it's always a work in progress. So we'll continue to examine all of that. Yeah.
Sir, very crucial in revenue generation are the bureaus of customs and internal revenue. My first question, meron na po ba kayong napili o nakausap?
Well, let me put it this way, dami kong aplikante for customs and BIR. But you're right, critical yan. We have to increase our collections both in the BIR, both in customs. Sa customs, marami nag-a-advise sa atin, marami naman na maaring gawin. We are talking about buying equipment, the ADB, the World Bank has given us much equipment, di masyadong nagagamit. We have to increase that. Also, we have to develop the ports so that the business grows, and from that growth in trade, in shipping, the collections of government will increase. But the efficiency of the Bureau of Customs has to be really seen too. Hindi naman mangyayari yan na nag-iisa. And of course, we've all heard the horror stories about but structurally, we have to approach it in a new way and say that the main job of the Bureau of Customs is to increase their collection through ease of doing business, even just the documentation, and then of course all this new equipment that we can to be able to handle larger increases in volume. So that I think is how we are going to head when it comes to customs. And yes, I have had many applications to head the Bureau of Customs, but I'm sure we will find the right people. I have a fairly good idea of who has been able to show performance. And the BIR, ganun din. What we have to do is make more efficient the entire process. Number one, make it easier for people to understand what the tax structure is. Put people in there. Of course, hindi mo matatanggal pa sa usapan. Let's not pretend na pag pinag-usapan customs at saka BIR, ang daming corruption.
I was going to go there, sir, if I may. Meron ho ba kayong magiging specific marching orders to the people you will appoint to these agencies with regard to allegations of corruption?
Well, there's no place for, there should not be any place for corruption. Unfortunately, in some areas, naging endemic na talaga yung corruption. You will have to really dig deep. I hope we do not have to do what then Prime Minister Mahathir did, where he said, sige, mag-15-30 lang kayo, kasi may tenure sila. Mag-15-30 lang kayo, huwag kayong papasok, paltang ko kayo lahat. I hope we don't have to go that far, but I'm willing to. This is too important. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. Corruption, kalimutan na lang natin yung nakaraan. Let's just do it. Huwag natin sasabihin natin, sige, that was not under my watch. Hindi ako namamahala nun. Ngayon ako na namamahala. So wala nang ganyan. At kung meron pang ganyan, habul-habulin talaga namin kayo. At hindi po pwede yan because we will not succeed. The government, the economy in the Philippines will simply not succeed if we cannot collect duties, tariffs, etc. Through the Bureau of Customs, and we do not have good collection on taxes, both at the national and at the local level. Hindi talaga obra. We cannot. The numbers don't. The numbers don't match. So that's why it is very, very important, and we have to, at the very least, reduce the corrosive influence of corruption in government as a general rule.
Ms. Eden, on appointments.
Sa DICT po, PBBM, meron na po kayong napipisel kung sinong ilalagay nyo doon. Since sabi nyo po kanina, priority po ninyo yung digitalization.
Yeah, I have already a person there, but we are still trying to put together the plan. Siguro within this week, pwede na namin. Kasi inaayos pa lang namin. Kailangan kasi para sa akin, bago pa tayo mag-nominate, maliwanag na kung ano yung kailangan namin gawin. At kung paano gagawin, ano yung timetable. So yun ang nililiwanag ko pa naman sa ngayon. It really is at this stage, the ICT, it's technical. Ano ba yung kaya natin gawin? Where's the technology now? Who can help us with the technology? So we're trying to figure that out. Because yung digitalization affects every single agency in government, both national and local. And until we do it, yung efficiencies natin, yun, corruption na naman ng maraming sources of abuse. And certainly, yung ease of doing business lang. Yung tao naman, hindi naman dapat papupuntay ng 20 opisina. You spend 3 days para makuha lang mga pirma. na lalapit-lapitan pa ng mga fixer, na kailangan tanggalin natin lahat yun. So, and digitalization will be key to achieve that. So, let us lay it out first between ourselves, and then I will explain to you soon what the role the DICT is expected to play and how it will do it, and who will be in that department.
Doon lang po sa ito yung pinaka-concern ng ating mga mamamayan, yung napabalita na po na maibababa sa 20 pesos ang kada kilo ng bigas.
That's the aspiration.
Paano po natin yung gagawin ng BBM?
Ibubuhin natin yung value chain na pinag-uusapan ko sa Kausap ko na yung mga ibang trader. Baka pwede nating i-hold ng ilang buwan yung presyo ngayon. I think we'll be able to do it as a first step. But in the long term, we really have to fix our value chain. That's the only way. Ngayon, ang nagiging problema, one of the problems that is popping up in agriculture, yung edad ng ating mga magsasaka. I'm sure you've all seen the statistics, it's 56, 57, whatever. But that's not a good number, that's too high a number. And unfortunately, ang mga farmer mismo nagsasabi sa kanilang mga anak, huwag kang mag-farming, ang hirap ng buhay na ito. Mag-aral na lang kayo, magtrabaho kayo sa opisina. Kaya kami naghihirap dito para hindi nyo na kailangan gawin ito. And that's why young people are not coming into agriculture. Now, how do we change that? We must employ new technologies. It has to be industrial farming. It has to be, ang dami naman bago. Especially with the advent of global warming. Nakita niyo ba itong taon na ito? Naintindihan niyo ba yung weather? Kung kailan yung tag-araw, kailan yung tag-ulan. Sinasabi ng pag-asa sa atin, tag-araw ngayon, pero panay naman ang ulan. Sinasabi nila, tag-ulan na, hindi naman umuulan. So, talagang masyado nang magulo. That's why we need high-tech solutions. And that will bring younger people in. Because we're not talking anymore about traditional farming only. Of course, you will still have to put seeds into the ground. But marami ng bagong technologies that are developed by younger people. And so they can get involved in agriculture again. Like I said, COVID changed everything. We cannot depend on the old system. We cannot depend on on business as usual. That would be a disaster. The pre-pandemic world is never coming back. That is a hard truth that we all have to accept. And what's coming is something that we don't quite know yet, but it's beginning to show what that will be. So in terms of agriculture, we have to move with the times, and we have to be very open to new strategies, new technologies, new techniques, not only in the actual technical part of agriculture, but also in the organization of our agricultural community and our agricultural sector. So, yeah, that's something that we have to deal with. So, the aspiration is 20 pesos. I don't know. I think if we work very hard at it, baka maabot natin yun.
When?
Oh boy, pag nabuo yung ating tinatawag na value chain, we have to do research and development. Marami naman tayong magaling eh. We have to do research and development, find the new varieties, find the new techniques. With the price of fertilizer getting so high, anong mga alternatives natin, organic, etc. And how do we mass produce that? And then we have to bring all these new technologies to the farmer, and we have to teach them how to best take advantage of all of the things that we have discovered. We have to find new ways of production. And yung agriculture naman, pinag-uusapan, hindi lang bigas yan eh. Hindi lang crops yan eh. Fisheries yan at saka livestock. So lahat yan kailangan natin tignan. And with in mind, you should always keep in mind, there must be sufficient food supply. Kailangan may sapat na bigas, kasi yan ang ating we have to also look at protein. Siyempre, livestock, fisheries. Hindi lang naman iisa yan. So, that has to be developed. Now, the good thing about that is that for the Philippines, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Marami naman tayong pupuntahan na magtaturo tayo. Ang nasakit lang dyan is these are the people that studied in UPLB na ngayon pupunta natin, paano ba yung pinakabago, pinakamaganda? Yan yung mga nasa IRI noon, nasa field rice, bumalik na, umuwi na, and they're making a success of agriculture. But, whatever it takes, we will do it.
Thank you, Ms. Eden. Jerry, if you have no more questions on appointments, you can go to food prices.
Appointments lang, sir. Balikan ko lang.
Sige.
Magkakaroon ba ng special assistant to the president na position? And who will it might be?
Well, that actually is an existing position already. Special assistant, yes. Well, I suppose we can already, we've asked Congressman Anton Lagdameo to fill that position. Yeah, because it's very sensitive and very important in the sense that we have worked, we've known each other since he was a child. Hindi na ako child noon, pero since he was young. So he knows me very well. He has been with us, working with me for past 10 years, mga ganon. So in terms of the working relationship, and then, between the two of us, siguro we've already found the modus vivendi. So that should be an easy, easy position for him to pick up on.
Sir,
May inside info kaya, ba't alam mo?
ano lang, sir. Sir, yung si Deputy Speaker Marcoleta, what will happen to him? And recently, Vic told us sa media na there's an offer for Professor Clayta Carlos to join your cabinet rank. Anong update sa kanya, sir? Marcoleta and Professor Carlos.
Everybody's still we're still talking about the role. Because ang approach ko naman sa lahat na nare-recommenda o napupunta sa akin is, first of all, where do you feel, marami naman nagsasabi kahit saan, basta ilagay mo ako kahit saan. Marurunong naman, magagaling naman. And I always ask them back, I said, where do you feel you will be the most useful? And so all of that, si Kadante Marcoleta, I asked him the same question, and I'm waiting for his answer. But definitely, with his legal prowess, I think that he will be of great use to us. Now, I understand that in his particular situation, meron pa siyang opportunity mag-congressman. Oo, dun sa party list. So, he will have to decide that. That's his decision to make. So, pag-uusapan namin ulit. The professora, of course, we've been in consultation with her and asking her. And again, it's the same question. Where do you feel that you will be the most help? And again, we're waiting for that answer because alam naman natin na marunong naman si professora. Siya at least especially in terms of foreign policy and international politics, talaga maraming maitutulong.
Solgen, sir. Sinong Solgen mo?
Sorry?
Solicitor General.
Sa?
Solgen. OSG.
Which one?
Solicitor General, sir.
Social welfare. Huh? Solgen. Oh, okay. Hindi ko naintindihan. Okay. Marami din eh. Ang daming magagaling. We are lucky in that marami nga na who are some of the legal luminaries have expressed their willingness to join the government, and that's one of the offices that we're talking about. That's going to be very important. I'll talk to we will hindi pa finalize ang sino magsusol dyan.
Do you have a question on food prices? Matapos na tayo. Okay.
Isa ho sa mga immediate na problema nga harapin ng inyong administrasyon ay ang sinasabing food crisis ng Department of Agriculture. In fact, just this week, laman po ng balita yung kakulangan sa patatas. And then, ang sabi ng Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food, maaring last quarter po ng taong ito ay maramdaman natin ang gusto itong food shortage dahil sa taas ng presyo ng fertilizer, farm inputs, mataas na presyo ng trigo. Ano ho ang inyong mga concrete plans para masiguro ang sapat at abot kayang pagkain sa lahat ng Pilipino?
We have to just increase production, and baka mapilitan pa rin tayo mag-import. The importation was forced on us because our production, the problem is that the production was not sufficient. Since the production was not sufficient, to keep the prices down to an affordable level, we have to import. And nasa crisis tayo, we're in an emergency situation. So we may have to continue to do that. But in my view, not only for import substitution, I think we really have to help the agricultural sector. In the immediate future, yung mga inputs, kailangan nating tignan what can the government do to support the inputs. The biggest component now is urea. And again, exactly as you mentioned, 2,000 pesos, hindi nila kaya talaga. So maybe there is a way that we can come to an agreement. I think we'll be able to do it. Hindi naging maliit na bagay yung gera sa Ukraine. Because dun tayo, hindi yung wheat na sinasabi, hindi yung problema yung para sa tinapay, yung wheat sa feeds. Yun ang nagiging problema natin. So these are events that are completely beyond our control. So we have to find other ways. So can we import somewhere else? Can we make an arrangement somewhere else? Like we did with oil in the 70s. Na kinausap natin yung mga oil producers. And sinabi natin, bigyan nyo naman kami ng magandang option. And we will have to do that in the meantime for the agricultural inputs. Pero kailangan talagang paspasan lahat yung mga research and development, lahat ng yung sistema ng pautang. I think that's one of the areas that we really want to look at. Unfortunately, Land Bank has converted itself not into an agricultural bank anymore. It really operates as a commercial bank. So maybe we can return those lending institutions that are supposed to be supportive of the agricultural industry, supportive of farmers, back to its original brief na kung saan naman napunta. We have to return many of the functions of agencies in government to what they are supposed to be, but they have turned into something else. Like NFA was never formed to import, quite the contrary. NFA was formed to stabilize prices, and sana ibalik natin dun. But again, I don't want to sugarcoat the problem. The problem is serious. It will take. In the immediate future, I think we will be able to find palliatives, yung mga para naman makatulong lang tayo for now. But those cannot be the solutions, the long-term solutions. We have to find long-term solutions. There's nothing more. We have to go back to I know I keep saying the phrase, but that really is where we're headed, is the value chain of agriculture. From the very beginning of it, to production, to processing, to mechanization, to credit, all the way to retail.
How do you intend po na, to resolve the high prices of po ni Mr. Ramon Ang, willing naman siyang ibenta ulit yung Petron sa under your administration. And then yung OPSF, ano po ang inyong plano? Ibalik ba yon?
Well, first of all, we cannot control prices. This is the nub of the problem. It's beyond us. Hindi tayo price giver, price taker tayo sa oil market. So, kung ano ang mangyari, when open, remember correctly, and actually I was part of the effort, was when the 1973 oil crisis hit. What we tried to do was to make more beneficial arrangements. Like I remember, I was sent on a mission by my father, together with then Secretary of the last team doing just that, looking cleaner than coal. It is as clean as it's going to get, but until we are able to sufficiently increase our power production through renewables, we have to find the pantawid from purely traditional to the new mix of renewables and traditional. So energy is hard. Talaga, ako aminin ko sa inyo, energy is hard. We really did the world situation, the local situation, the way that we have evolved our systems, it can be quite complicated. So we have to really come up with some good strategies there. But in general, we have begun to see areas where that may potential na dyan tayo kukuha, may baba natin ang presyo ng singil sa kuryente. Okay?
Last question.
Yeah, sir, on foreign policy.
Okay.
Yung may patuloy po mga reports ng incursions, even spying sa internal waters ng Pilipinas. Ano ho ang magiging position ninyo with regard to asserting our sovereignty in the region? What is your position on the arbitral ruling, and how will you enforce it?
Well, in terms of sovereignty, there is no wiggle room there. Our sovereignty is sacred, and we will not compromise it in any way. We are a sovereign nation with a functioning government, so that we do not need to be told by anyone how to run our own country. So that's essentially sovereignty, self-determined in the Philippines. So again, there is no room for negotiation there. It is sacred and inviolable. So that is my approach to Philippine sovereignty. I have already said this before, considering in the West Philippine Sea that there have been these conflicts. We will not allow a single square, and even make it smaller, a single square millimeter of our maritime coastal and up to we are 200 kilometers rights to be trampled upon. And how do we do this? We strengthen our. We're talking when let's not traipse around it. We're talking about China. And how do we do that? We talk to China consistently with a firm voice. And we say that hindi naman natin pwedeng girahin. At ang gusto ba natin gawin, manggigera pa tayo ngayon, papasok pa tayo sa gera. That's the last thing we need right now. So, we have to continue to discuss with them the conflicting claims that we have with China and that China has with other members of ASEAN. And I think ASEAN is still going to be a very critical part of that discussion, of that. But nonetheless, we also have to continue to pursue bilateral contact and communication with China. In fact, this is what I mentioned when I spoke to President Xi. When he called me to congratulate me on winning the election. I immediately went and I said that we have to continue to talk about this. We cannot be allowed to. This cannot be allowed to fester and to become more severe in terms of a problem between our two countries. So that's why in foreign policy, the Americans now, of course, have a very strong global interest, strategic interest in the region with the rise of China and their view that the West Philippine Sea is a critical part of the trade routes, which it is, and that's why it's so important. Trade routes for shipping in the region. So we are a small player amongst very large giants in terms of geopolitics. So we have to ply our own way. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I do not subscribe to the old thinking of the Cold War, where we had the spheres of influence, where you were under the Soviet Union, or you were under the United States. I think that we have to just find an independent foreign policy where we are friends with everyone. It's the only way. The closest part of China to my province, Ilocos Norte, is 600 kilometers away. We have to be good neighbors, and we ask them to be good neighbors to us as well. It was of mutual benefit to our countries. Now, the role that the United States is going to play, well, we define that role very simply. It comes from our traditional relationship with the United States, which has been very strong and very advantageous to both of us, both the United States and the Philippines, over the past 100 or so years. So that's how we define that. So we must maintain that balance. I think we are not. I don't think we are the only country that's having to do that. And again, the partnerships that we make within the region, ASEANs primarily, are going to be of critical importance when it comes to that. So we have to make those. As I told the ambassadors when they came, not only economically but geopolitically, as we emerge from the pandemic and the crisis that it brought, we have to form alliances and partnerships, because no country can do this, can recover or can change foreign policy on their own. Can change the geopolitical situation on their own. And that's why we have to forge partnerships. And those are the partnerships that will keep things stable. And that's my belief and that's my approach.
Last na lang po yung arbitral ruling. Patuloy po ba natin ito igigit?
Ay, hindi na natin. Nasa atin na yung arbitral ruling. So we will, of course, we have a very important ruling in our favor, and we will use it to continue to assert our territorial rights. It's not a claim. It is already our territorial right. And that is what the arbitral ruling can do to help us.
Ma'am?
We have
Last.
10 minutes. Okay. You want to ask?
Sir, may request kasi ang ating mga kababayan nanonood. Meron daw po ba kayong mensahe sa kay President Duterte na inyo pong papalitan sa pwesto, sir?
Well, yung mga pinapag-usapan namin, bago pa nag-eleksyon, ay sinasabi niya, basta itong mga bagay na ito, ituloy mo. Please, that is the request that they sabi na it's so important to him. And it's still, siyempre, yung kanyang priority has always been anti-drug problem. And of course, you have to...
Sir, sorry, when did this meeting take place, if I may? Before the election,
There were
correct?
several, actually. It's not just a single...
And this happened when you were already the front runner in the surveys, tama po ba?
Not the first few. Wala pa ba?
So more than once po.
Yeah, pinuntahan ko siya. Sabi ko, how do you want to do this? Ako na lang ang natirang kandidato sa administration side. Pwede pa tayo magtulungan, ganun, the PDP, etc. Anyway, that was, but ang kanya, sinasabi niya, one thing that he was very assertive about was that ituloy mo yung anti-drug syndicate na sinimulan ko. Do it your own way. He really said that. Do it your own way. Palitan mo, gawin mo yung gusto, pero wag mong iiwanan yan dahil kawawa ang kabataan natin. Talagang nasisira ang mga buhay nila. So that, I fully appreciate what he said. And of course, the drug problem in the country continues to be a problem. And so we must continue to look that way. So foreign policy, of course, the president, si PRRD, has taken a very, slightly unorthodox approach. But again, balance is his thing. So we agree on that. In terms of the economy, the last time we spoke, he said they were discussing yung increase from 200 to 500 sa ayuda. So they were talking about it. He turns to me and said, sorry na lang kung ikaw yung susunod, uubusin ko yung pera, pero kailangan na talaga ng tao.
So this is a cabinet meeting, sir?
No, it was just a very casual discussion. But he was, si PRRD, he likes to throw it out there to see how people react and to see if how it should be changed. And I was just a bystander. I was just watching. And so that talagang tama rin naman siya. I don't think he had a choice. Na talagang kailangan pa rin ng tao, kawawa masyadong tao. So, those were the areas that we specifically spoke about. Yeah, so that's...
Will he play a role in your government, sir?
I'm sorry?
Will he play a role in the government?
If he wants to.
Drug czar or anti-drug czar, something like that.
If he wants to.
So it's a standing offer from the president-elect?
I will, no, he has not, we have not talked about it. But I'm open to anyone who is able to help in the government. So, matagal na kaming magkaibigan ni PRRD, nung mayor siya pa, long time ago. So, I'm sure if he wants to play a part, sasabihin naman niya sa akin. Certainly open to all of that.
Sir, what about other presidential calls po? Nag-reach out na ba sa inyo, open ba yung inyong administration sa mga nakilaban ninyo na mabigyan ng posisyon? Kung competent naman yung posisyon?
Marami na. Marami na, meron nga yung sinasabi, meron mga, hindi ko na babanggitin kung sino, pero iilan dyan, nagsabi, lumabang kami sa inyo, siguro wala na kaming pag-asa dyan sa gobyerno. Sabi, hindi, huwag niyo, politika lang yan. Trabaho na tayo. Okay lang yun. For me, that's part of it. And that's finished. The people have spoken. The decision has been made. So let's work on that basis. And again, ang aking criterion talaga sa kukunin namin kung sino yung marunong, sino yung magaling doon sa area na yun at handang tumulong. What else do you need? Yan, di ba? And I was right before when I said one of the hardest parts of picking these experts and yung pinakamagagaling is that because they are successful, maganda na yung buhay nila eh. Sabihin, pumasok ka sa politika, ang gulo-gulo ng politika. But ang dami talagang willing dahil Pilipino sila eh. Nagmamahal sila sa Pilipinas.
Maraming salamat rin.
Thank you.
Ms. Eden, MJ, Ivan, maraming
Thank you.
salamat
Thank you,
po
PBBM.
sa-
Thank you, Secretary Trixie.
Ano yan? Ano yan?
Alisoto po, Miss Alisoto, our Ann 4. And syempre, I myself, Brigadier